Well, I was in a public restroom. I was in a stall, and I overheard two women, well, just trashing me, talking about an article I had written and how wrong it was and how ridiculous it was. And first I just had all my high school flashbacks, and then I realized they were talking about someone else. So I came out and I looked at one of them reflected in the mirror, and I said, "I think you're talking about Naomi Wolf, who is another Naomi writer, and I've been confused with her and conflated with her for much of my life."
So there's the coincidence of the name, but there are lots of other coincidences as well.
Yeah.
Even though your politics are, vastly different.
Yeah, now they are. She used to be. I mean, this book is it's not about her, but she is a white rabbit, like in Alice in Wonderland, leading me down a rabbit hole into what I call the mirror world of conspiracy theories. And I think, yes, people confuse her with me, but I think it's more interesting that she is almost a doppelganger of her former self. And she is, to me, emblematic of the way a lot of people change during COVID. I speak to so many people, I can't talk to my uncle anymore. They've changed. They're not themselves. So she used to be a prominent feminist, wrote The Beauty Myth, was a Democratic Party consultant, and now she hangs out with Steve Bannon and Tucker Carlson.
And so this book is about her, not just her journey, but the journey of much of America into that corner.
Exactly.
How do you explain that journey?
Well, I mean, I think some of it's social media, some of it's that there is an industry now in conspiracy because you can monetize your extreme posts, you get lots of eyeballs, and then you can turn that into money. But I think that the bigger issue is that people are trying to make sense of a world that feels broken. They thought that if they worked hard, they'd be able to pay the bills and maybe afford a nice home, and none of it is happening. And because we don't do very good political education in North America, I don't know about here, but our schools don't really teach us about these economic systems that are failing people. They're very vulnerable to somebody who says, well, it's actually all Bill Gates, Anthony Fauci's fault, and maybe the Jews and also the Chinese.
And the amazing thing about, the combination of all these things, and especially the power of social media, is that you can create your own reality.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what we're seeing in this book.
You can also create your own doppelganger. I mean, a lot of what interested me about the figure of the doppelganger is that I think the more we interact with the world online, the more we're represented to the world through a doppelganger, our digital avatar.
The algorithm reinforces what you think you are.
But even just who we are, like we're just a thumbnail-sized picture that is sort of us, but it's kind of like a branded version of us. And my first book was called No Logo, and it was about the rise of this idea of the brands and humans being brands.
And here you are upset that your own brand is being undermined.
My brand is in crisis. You're not supposed to talk brands. My brand is in crisis. But I thought that me having a branding crisis was an interesting way to talk about, do we really want to be brands at all? One of the nice things about having a doppelganger gone wild, which I do, is that it sort of frees you from thinking that you can control the way the world perceives you and you can just have fun writing.
If you were called something else, and I know you wanted to change your name when you were really young to Natalie, right?
Natalie, Nadia, anything but
And
Naomi.
if that had happened, we wouldn't have had this problem. I mean, we'd have the bigger problem, but not this
And I wouldn't have a book.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a book.
So
thank God you didn't change your name. So seriously, on Russell Brand, for instance, I mean, we've talked a lot about it in this country, I'm sure in the States as well. Yeah. He has created his own massive platform and therefore his own reality.
Yeah, and one of the things that I think is appealing to a lot of people about this world is it really is insulating from any kind of accountability because you have a pre-scripted defense, which is that they're out to get you, right? Because your platform is growing. It's a huge part of the narrative of Russell Brand's show is they're going to shut us down. They're going to shut us down before this even happened. So it's a closed loop. You can't access it.
You write a lot about COVID and what happened to people during COVID. The fact that COVID was both about us being locked up like never before, but also about the extraordinary kind of successes of science. It's amazing that this created this sort of, this fairy tale universe.
Yeah.
And same with climate change, which you've written about an awful lot. This is science and physics colliding with kind of medieval superstition. Yeah,
but the thing is, COVID was also like a searchlight that showed us that a lot of things, were broken, and that our essential workers were being treated as if they were sacrificial. We needed a government to be there to take strong measures to keep us safe, and lots of governments failed. And I think that like climate change, people don't like the implications of the science. It's not that they don't like the science. They don't like that the science means we actually have to do things.
Naomi Klein, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.